Chris, I do want to start with this idea of a crypto czar in the White House. How do you look at a role like this and the relationship that this person would have with the SEC, with the crypto industry, but also making sure that, hey, this is an industry where I think a lot of critics would say consumers still need to be protected?
Yeah, I think that when you talk about things like clarity and the desire to bring clarity, you have to really define what that means here in Washington. On the one hand, it means what are the substantive rules, and that's where you have things like a crypto czar to ideally help coordinate across the government. But it also means, how do you comply with those rules? And I think that what you're going to see, both coming from the SEC or coming from a crypto czar, and certainly even coordination from the Treasury Department, is this question of how do we make rules that are fit for purpose, and then how exactly are those companies going to ultimately comply with those rules for the ongoing future?
So speaking of rules of the future, it's not like in the last Trump administration there were no rules, right? I mean, you actually had some fairly critical approaches to some parts of the crypto industry. And when you look at the way crypto has been behaving, yes, there's Bitcoin on one hand, but then there's all of this optimism on, for example, this idea that altcoins will be almost en masse being approved to be rolled up into ETF wrappers. Do you think that this exuberance is maybe going a little too far, given what we've seen in the past?
As I said, I think people get a little bit confused about what clarity means. I think that you heard this from the Coinbase comments earlier, is that what the industry has thus far advocated is clear rules of the road. I mean, certainly the SEC didn't engender a lot of friends by pursuing enforcement actions where there wasn't a lot of clarity as to how to make fit-for-purpose rules. But there are rules, and those rules will be in place. Generally, we tend to think about things like AML and KYC issues that will certainly continue to predominate the national conversation. But there is also an entire world, an entire ambit of things that firms are going to have to think about in the near future, including operational rules. Over at my company, Bluprynt, we think about disclosure rules that really companies are going to have to think about if they want to remain on the right side of even the Trump administration.